Good evening, everyone. For those who may be watching, we are about to start, and I will call to order the Board of Education business meeting for the month of January. We need to move to approval agenda, but first I just want to thank everybody for the flexibility. We are indeed living in just challenging times that show its fluidity from time to time, and making last minute decisions as we did today. I know inconvenience some and work better for some others, and that's the nature of what we do sometimes. So we're grateful we can be here tonight, though. We will go ahead with our agenda generally as outlined, having the approval of the agenda, and then we will go to some recognitions and bright spots that we have, and we look forward to that. So if I can get an approval, a motion to approve the agenda. Ryan, thank you. Second, I didn't hear which of you two. Marty, thank you, Marty. Sorry, it came from this direction. Second, Marty. Any questions, agenda changes or motions?
Yeah,
Yes.
can I make a motion to add item 9I, discussion on the masking policy?
Okay, in terms of the situation of
Yeah,
what's
just an
going on in the
update.
community? So,
Yeah.
we have a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second? Brian, a second. Any discussions about that request? All in favor to amend the agenda? Any opposed? No, I see 7-0. And then to approve the agenda now as amended. All in favor? Any opposed? No, seeing none. 7-0. So we will add 9I. I don't know if that will show up without me refreshing, Pam, but you're welcome to remind me, or others to remind me, that we have an I on the agenda. With that, though, we're looking forward to some recognitions, and been a while in waiting. We look forward to having our scholar athlete recognitions, and welcome our athletic director, Mr. Fritz Killian, to the podium here for that.
Thanks, Peter. Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to recognize our fall scholar athlete teams. At the end of each season, our state athletic association honors those teams and individuals that excel in the classroom, and our student athletes are no different. Those student athletes, teams, and schools work very hard throughout the school year and deserve to be recognized for their academic success. And if we go on to the next slide, you're going to see the criteria that the State Athletic Association uses. To receive a scholar athlete team recognition with a certificate, the team's average GPA for 75% of their roster must be greater than or equal to 90. Our first team that we're going to recognize is fall cheerleading, coached by Elaine McGurk, and congratulations to them. They were also fall 2021 Section 5 champions, and you can see the roster right there. Coach McGurk, the Board of Education, and the Fairport community are extremely proud of you and your team, and congratulations on a special season. Next, we have our boys varsity cross country team. You can see the roster right there. They came as a team a close second to Webster Thomas in the Section 5 finals, and you can also see the individual honors that we achieved. I would like to highlight John Farrell, who was a Section 5 Class A individual cross country champion, as well as the cross country runner of the year for the entire area. Congratulations to John, as well as his all-county teammates and fellow All-Greater Rochester teammates. Sean Van Laken, the Board of Education extends to you their congratulations. Thank you. Job well done. Moving on to our girls cross country, coached by Christy Moore. They had a very, very successful season. You can see the roster on my screen, and I'd like to highlight our post-season individual award winners: Hannah Kassler, Mary Kate Fish, Helena Painting, Zoe Marcus, and Ari Reedback. You can see where they received all-county recognition, as well as honorable mention All-Greater Rochester recognition. Coach Moore, Board of Education extends their sincere appreciation. Thank you for a successful season. Varsity field hockey, coached by Teresa Santa. They moved on to the Section 5 semifinals. They had a very, very competitive season. Really, really proud of all of our players: Megan Woolley, Megan McCrody, Anna Lansdowne, Margaret Greta, and Jillian Ambler all achieved all-county honors, as well as all Greater Rochester honors. Board of Education extends to Coach Santa and our student athletes congratulations on a successful season. On to varsity football, coached by Mike Wayne. You can see our roster on the screen, as well as some postseason honors with Joe Gigi, Nick Provenzano, Tyler Pucci, Robert Cameron, and John Myers in terms of being Federation Football All-Stars and all Greater Rochester players. Coach Mike Wayne and the Board of Education, we are extremely proud of your program and our players. Congratulations. Looking forward to next year. Girls varsity golf, coached by Coach Terry Clark. You can see the roster there. They had a wonderful season. I think it was the most successful season in many, many years. You can see our individual honors, starting with Megan Roble, Maddie Thompson, Macy Ostrander, and Harper Dittman. And Harper was highlighted as winning the Tournament of Champions, and she will also be representing Fairport and Section 5 in the state tournament later this spring. Congratulations to our girls golf team and Coach Terry Clark on a fantastic season. Our girls varsity gymnastics team, coached by Alicia Baum. There you can see the roster. They competed very, very hard this year, very successful. And I'd like to recognize Elise Westrich and Sarah Lago on their first Team All-County recognition for their events and also for their performance in terms of qualifying for our state championship team. They'll be representing Fairport and Section 5 in the state championships in March. Coach Baum, the Board of Education extends to you a hearty congratulations. Thank you for a wonderful season, and good luck to the gymnasts that are representing our community in March. Our boys varsity soccer had a fantastic season. They were Section 5 finalists, losing to a very, very fine Hilton team in the finals. Congratulations to the entire team, as well as our individuals that were able to earn postseason honors. Noah Buys, Marco Ferry, Sehad Hozek, Garrett Kachera, Jonathan Musumeci, Miles Palmer. And I'd also like to point out that Miles was co-player of the year for the area. Just a fantastic honor. Bill Teasdale and Mark Fish did a fantastic job. I can't be prouder. I will also add that they donated a check for Cure, which goes to childhood cancer. That was roughly $1,400 that they raised through T-shirt sales and other sales within our games. And they really did that because people wanted to come and see them perform, and they did purchase T-shirts. That money all goes to childhood cancer through Golisano Children's Hospital. We had that ceremony today, actually, in room 512. Our girls varsity soccer team, coached by Tom Natali, they were the Section 5 champions this year, and you can see their roster right on the screen. Special individual honors to Katie Diem, Morgan Donovan, Bridget Mulholland, Bella Pucci, Erica Yancey, and they also received a top 20 state ranking where they were ranked number 19th in the state. So congratulations to the girls and Coach Natali, our Board of Education and community, extremely proud of a wonderful season. Thank you. Our girls varsity swimming and diving, coached by Mike Kennedy and Dave Salmon. You can see the roster there on the screen. Postseason award honors go to Ella Guilfoyle, who set numerous pool records and was a top 5 at the state meet this year. Riley Hauber, Kaylee Lawrence, Sophie Mewison, who's one of the best divers in New York State. She was a Section 5 diving champion and broke multiple diving records within our Fairport pool and opposing pools. She was also named All Greater Rochester. Lauren Riddell, Lena Galjos, Alyssa Galley, Emma Kingdon, Molly Starrett, and Sage Vadney. Congratulations to our swimmers and divers and our coaches on a fantastic season. Girls varsity tennis, coached by Terry Metcalf. They had a fantastic season. They were Section 5 finalists as a team. They came up a little short to a wonderful Brighton team, but we're very, very proud of them. Livia Amadori, Riley DeRue, Gwen Levinovitz, Alenia Nadelko, Samantha Rava, and Abigail Smith all received postseason honors, and Uliana represented Fairport and Section 5 at the state tournament downstate this year in late October, early November. Congratulations to our girls tennis team. Moving on to boys varsity volleyball, coached by John Odell. You can see their roster. They had a fantastic season, making it all the way to the Section 5 semifinals. Congratulations to AJ Berta, Carter Dittman, and Ryan Smolik, who achieved postseason honors, as well as AJ and Carter for all Greater Rochester recognition. Congratulations on a fantastic season, Coach. And girls varsity volleyball, coached by Trish Fergenzi. They had a fantastic season, very, very competitive. I'd like to point out the individual honors by Megan Clifford, Kira Kornman, and Anna Wheatley. Congratulations to our girls varsity volleyball program and our coaches and all of our student athletes. They're extremely busy. Even just tonight, we have an ice hockey game and a wrestling match at Joanna Parent Middle School. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, our wrestling team won the Section 5 dual team championship on Saturday. They leave Friday for the state championships at Onondaga Community College. Busy in school, busy within the community, and busy with their interscholastic athletics. And 100% of our fall teams achieved Scholar Athlete recognition. That's just a tremendous achievement. Any questions?
That is a wonderful achievement to have all teams. I didn't add them up quickly. All number of students on this roster? Did we? Just curious. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can get back to you.
No, just curious, right? It's a great number. Appreciate it. I was impressed with the size of each team, the number of students qualifying, and appreciate that being such an emphasis for our students that they be successful in the classroom and on the field. So
Thank you. Yes, we do keep large rosters. Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for? Thank you for recognition. Yep. Okay. We are going to go on with our bright spot. Is that right? If we can cue that up.
The health, safety, and well-being of our students is always a top priority in the Fairport Central School District. Every day, our faculty and staff work to ensure that students of all ages are healthy and safe, with programs and curriculum that speak to this Board of Education and community priority.
Fairport's health education program started with simply 3 to 4 lessons throughout the whole school year, where we would have our health education teacher push into every classroom at every elementary school. We then moved forward into having a health class every 2 weeks. So that was about 20 lessons per school year. And then starting this year, we've moved forward into a weekly rotation. What makes Fairport's health education program special is that we are progressive in how much health education our students are receiving. So with our increased time with students, we're able to increase the number of learning experiences and opportunities to build skills that are necessary to use digital media in a responsible and positive way.
For the first time, the 2021-22 school year is seeing a dedicated, certified health teacher in classrooms, teaching health as a regular special in each of Fairport's 4 elementary schools.
Now that we have this health special in the elementary class, and we're able to see the students more, we're able to expand on some of the curriculum that we've already been doing while incorporating new curriculum or where we might see gaps. For example, the social emotional learning is such a critical piece to schools and helping support the students, especially during the pandemic, but even before then. And students are learning, about their feelings and that they're okay and how to manage them. And we practice skills. We do a lot of team building in here where they're practicing those social skills that maybe they missed out on. They're also, working on team building and the problem solving and decision making. And all while, we're incorporating different content in there, whether it be regarding nutrition. Digital citizenship is a huge one that we've been incorporating throughout the years, and certainly this year.
This program gives our youngest students the tools they need to learn how to make healthy life choices. And health class isn't the only way our students are getting that support.
So our elementary school counseling program is a preventative program. So what we do is really teach healthy coping mechanisms when the students are young. By teaching it to our youngest students, we're providing them with the foundational tools and skills that they need to be successful throughout their time here at Fairport and beyond. So we're really giving them those tools really early. so that when they do get into high school and middle school, they already have those healthy coping skills.
Fairport's elementary school counselors are in the classrooms with our students, developing their social emotional health and teaching resilience from the earliest age.
I think the most successful part of our program right now is the K-5 lessons that we've put into place. So previously, we were not able to do social emotional lessons in the higher grades. This is the first year that K-5 is receiving that. So that gives me the opportunity to guarantee that I'm going to be in front of every single student I see at least once and get the chance to introduce ourselves.
This is the first year that our elementary school counselors are meeting face-to-face with every single K-5 student with lessons in the students' classrooms. Our staff and faculty dedicate their days to giving students high-quality learning experiences that naturally encompass mental health support into their daily routines. The district also recognizes the importance of supporting our staff members' well-being too. They need to take care of themselves so they can best take care of others.
We always take staff wellness very importantly. We often have potluck lunches and yoga classes and pickup basketball games. But this year, because things have been so different for all of us, we really decided to focus on our mental well-being. And we've been using a program called Onward.
This year, the Onward project was phased in through building's regular staff meetings. The Onward project offers staff modules and activities that encourage our professionals to practice self-care and provide them with models so they can in turn share best self-care practices with our students.
We know more than ever that our physical health is important, and as teachers, we want to keep our buildings open. Our mental health and our resiliency are so closely tied to our physical health, and we want to be able to keep our schools open and have our kids here every day.
In our Fairport schools, there's always a commitment to improving and supporting expansive programming that meets the diverse needs of our school community. Moving forward, the Fairport Central School District will continue to celebrate and support the well-being and health of our students and staff, and reflect upon the whole child programming we offer so we can always be responsive to our students' academic and social emotional needs.
Mr. Provenzano, did you want to add anything, or, that was a great video.
Yes, thank you. It speaks for itself. Appreciate the investment, and I know we'll be talking more a little bit about what's happening with our brothers and sisters in the Pines of Parrington and the tragic and tragedy that they're all enduring right now. But our mental health staff has been on site supporting students and their families, and I think it's just important to recognize what is happening and how we are actually using the resources that we've invested in to support that situation right now. It's an encompassing model. Systems are on full effect. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in the near future, but I just want to say how that wraps up into this very important imperative that the board has always made it a priority.
I was going to say, at least for many years, when it became, I think, fairly blatantly obvious that social, emotional, mental health were very clearly connected to success in education, that the district as a whole, the school board, put such resources into the budget to support that, teaming up with Strong and other things, right? So that was a good bright spot. I'm glad to see our professionals there talking about it and what they're doing with the students. Okay, one minor change for the agenda. I perhaps announced earlier, the student report to accommodate our student advisor schedule. It happened actually during the public comment period. So we were able to hear from her about the updates here at the high school, and always a great update. I think a fan herself of Fairport High School, and all the different activities that are available, the upcoming play, our downstage group, and encouraging people to buy tickets for that in terms of what would she compare it to? What was that show? Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
Is that the right one, right? And having seen that in the past, yes, it's worth it, and can leave with a smile on your face. The incredible talent that we have here in our student body. So that brings us to the president's report. And overall, if you know where you can buy good crystal balls, I'd like to get a better one, right? If I could have known this morning, at least, what today was going to be like, maybe I'd have just slept in. But indeed, our hearts, and more than that, the efforts of not just the school board and the school district, but the community, go out to the families displaced by the terrible fire at the Pines. It reminded me of a story in ways I heard a while back, well, a long time ago, actually, a religious community back in the 1800s getting together, and a group of them, and they were talking about how they felt bad for such and such family because they had suffered such terrible loss. And it was kind of there, and, the usual prayers and condolences. But then the leader pulled out, I'm not sure if it's a wallet, whatever they carried their money in back then, to say, well, I feel bad for this family to the tune of $5. And turning it into action. And we didn't have that necessarily, but that's what happened today naturally out of the Fairport community. How gratifying it was that so many people were coming out from every angle whatsoever to try and meet both the immediate and now what's going to be long-term needs of these families. And I'm grateful our district's a part of that, but I'm also grateful for organizations who have a long history of doing that. Red Cross, who's able to show up and with their expertise, address some things immediately, but there will be long-term needs, and people started immediately making donations. I just so grateful to be part of this community, how they responded to those needs. Same thing with the crystal ball. I used that word when I first started thinking of the President's Report because, we came out of winter break, and mostly we looked to winter break, but coming out of it didn't seem very long, like we had a long enough break. Mr. Provenzano and Brett, you've been providing us and we've been wondering about the attendance in January. I'm kind of looking at it now, and right after winter break, our student attendance was down in the high 80s and dropped down to the mid 80s. And as a percentage of attendance, the staff was higher, but then it kind of switched, and the students were able to get back into the 90s, but our staff. And we were experiencing potentially real shortages. It became the biggest threat to keeping our schools open. It wasn't COVID itself. We weren't having spread or protections. Everything going on was shown that it works, that they were not having those types of outbreaks through schools. And we're grateful for that, but it didn't mean that we weren't being impacted regardless. And our threat to keeping schools open was staffing shortages. And then what happened? And I don't necessarily want to blow what we have. I do necessarily want to blow what we have future on the agenda in terms of approving the substitutes that we have, but people becoming aware that the biggest threat to keeping schools open was indeed substitutes. We are going to approve today a significant list. Out of the total new subs for the year of 37, 20 of them happened this month. And that's fantastic. And I know some of them were signing up who said, look, I can only do Fridays, but hey, we will take it Fridays, right? We will take it only Wednesdays. And so I think that's fantastic. Again, a reflection of the community as a whole, solution-based, look to solve problems, not just the whining and complaining. They're out there saying, what can we do to keep this going? It's better for our students overall to be in school. So I'm just grateful to those individuals who we will approve for doing that. And that we can try and meet the needs. So well done. Well done. I wish I had a better way to say thank you. I think I say thank you a lot, and it's probably insufficient, but I haven't necessarily learned it, but you have my heartfelt thanks. I want to do a quick shout out to here. I think you all know about it, but just a reminder to our buildings and grounds under the direction of Aaron Smith. That's your last name, right? Did I suddenly draw a blank?
You got it right.
Why did I draw a blank on that? Working on the night of the 18th and 19th at Martha Brown, right, where we had a significant issue that threatened to close that school specifically because of a leak and issues with electricity, so that we wouldn't be able, but they worked literally through the night. Our poor superintendent looked very tired in the morning, getting a call at 1 a.m.-ish, 1:30, somewhere in there, as they were working on it and saying, we probably need to prepare to shut this school down. And they kept working on it until they did not shut that school down. Wow. So I don't know if we say it enough to our buildings and grounds who are here day in and day out. They clean the schools. They take care of the property. They clean up the sidewalks, the parking lots. They are always around. And thank you so much for working so hard at a surprise situation. We heard from multiple community members. In terms of the public comment period, it was unique. I do think, hope you don't mind, I will just quickly summarize the 8 different speakers that we had. And I won't do it with names, but the first one said challenged the idea of systemic racism in our community in terms of not seeing it, and please requested that we please consider live streaming the public comments, a practice that we haven't had for over 10 years, but we do talk about frequently. The second, against the strategic direction of the district and concern out of the low pay of some of our employees, specifically in transportation and substitutes. The third, expressing gratitude for all that is done, support of the cultural responsive, read aloud books, talking about the process that's there, that indeed feedback was heard, changes were made, and big support for literacy, wanting to keep moving forward, and that literacy is an important part of the social justice issue overall. So much research space that's informing the process there. Another, recognizing the Pines. There were several who did that, recognized the good work of our teachers, admin, and staff, the daily ins and outs, staying focused on education despite all the what consider, I guess, background noise, and appreciated, expressed gratitude for the work of our diversity council. I may not take good notes. Oh, we had just a brief thank you. It wasn't a 3 minutes there, but a brief thank you by one for all that is being done. Another, offended by us going virtual today, very displeased that we went virtual, especially for the public comment period. Another, thanking the parents, students, staff, and keeping schools functioning during this time, recognizing how challenging it is, and then also expressing support for our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And a final speaker recognizing the challenge at the Pines, but talking about support of how we can physically expand our physical facilities. And didn't get to finish. We did have a 3-minute time limit, but knowing wanted to provide possible ideas and solutions that we may see later. But the gist of the talk was, and all of our construction progress is going on, can we think outside the box and find different ways to support the physical presence that we have, especially the outdoor fields. So there's a summary there. Open it up briefly to anybody for any committee issues that were discussed or things that they may want to report on. I do apologize. Somehow off my personal calendar and even the school calendar, the Labor Relations Committee has fallen off. I need to get it back on there. I missed it on the 19th. So I don't have anything to report there. I will try and get back on it, but others?
Well, we have our legislative breakfast coming up soon, and I hope most of us, if not all of us, will get there. It's on. Yeah, it's on. So I hope that we'll attend the legislative breakfast. I guess they have a pretty good turnout as to who they expect, so that should be good. I just wanted to add one other thing. A big thank you to our first responders during the night. Those firefighters, law enforcement, ambulance, everybody. Remarkable job. Thank you.
Good call. Thank you for reminding us of all their efforts, because it started in the middle of the night, what we would call.
Yes, it did.
And thankfully, no fatalities that we know of, right? Just some minor injuries.
And luckily, none of the first responders were harmed either, so
Right.
that's the upside to a terrible, terrible time.
Yes. Damon, you look like you're.
Yeah, I don't know if we're doing this in lieu of board comments later on in the meeting, but just from a couple of subcommittees' perspective, I was able to participate in the safety and security subgroup meeting. That was very effective meeting in terms of our progress on different initiatives around the safety plan, and also we did an interview for the position of security director, and I'm not sure if that's been finalized yet, but it was very good interviews, good candidates. And we also had a technology committee led by Tom Devitt, and a really impressive list of activities being done from a technology perspective. So that was good to hear.
Great.
And Sustainability Council, the kiddos are leading us in some great work on that, and the team is going to be presenting to the board, I believe, at our workshop or at our meeting next. At our workshop in February, and kind of updating where the work that they kind of started in October. And so we're looking forward to seeing some of their ideas put in fruition, and some of the ways that we as a board can support them, and so support sustainability efforts going forward.
That's awesome. Love it. Being, again, students who brought it to us and now seeing action in the committee and their participation. That's awesome.
Just a little update for finance and audit. You'll see all of our audits on board docs tonight, because we're reading them all and approving them. So we talked about those at our finance and audit meeting this month.
very exciting. We enjoyed it, but not everybody might. Right. It was good discussion and good review. We'll get to some of that later too as well. Others, Marty?
I was able to attend information exchange this past month where we had an update on legal matters presented by Harris Beach. Next month, very exciting, we will be meeting, although I'll miss it because of another workshop we have, but at the planetarium to plan for the upcoming solar eclipse next year. So that sounds really exciting, but I won't be able to attend, unfortunately. Anyway, I wanted to make a specific thank you to Wegmans Parenton, who was absolutely outstanding today. We called them around 7:30 this morning. They provided a complete lunch and then later a complete dinner for 75 people displaced by the fire at the Pines. And also to John Albert, a Fairport parent and owner of McArdle's, who did the same, providing lunch for 75 people just with a minute's notice and no hesitation whatsoever. So very inspiring to have that kind of support in the community. Truly appreciate it.
And Marty, thank you to you for helping coordinate all of that on the front end.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for recognizing them. It's incredible. Any others? If not, I will give time to our wonderful superintendent, Mr. Provenzano, for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. This is a different report. You know, I have the blessings to see the whole picture. I know that there's lots of different narratives out there, but I get to see it up close and personal. And today was nothing but inspiring, heartbreaking, emotional on many different levels. Right now, our friends and our brothers and sisters who live in the Pines of Perrington are less than one day into a very tragic situation that they're enduring right now. They lost their possessions, belongings, to a devastating fire, as many of you know, throughout our community. We also know and are fortunate to understand that right now there are no direct injuries as a result of what they experienced in the fire. I speak for the entire district when I say our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers are with our Fairport families in the Pines of Perrington and those who are directly impacted about what occurred. Many of those families have children, students in our district, who now face a challenge no child should ever face: the loss of their safe place, their shelter, and the things that they hold dear. However, and again, this is where I have hope, and this is where I find inspiration, and this is how I see it up close in such a personal way, that there's so much generosity, there's so much compassion, there's so much kindness. We had hundreds of neighbors, staff members, reached out, showed up for each other, donated food. We talked about McArdle's, Wegmans, Mark's Pizzeria, Salvatore's, Dunkin' Donuts, and there's a few other, Chipotle, donating just out of the goodness of their heart. It took a community effort, and it felt good to be able to nurture the 75, sometimes 100 members of our community who were in dire need. As we move along, we will share with all community members on what exactly is needed so we can continue to hone in on ways we can best support our family and friends in the Pines of Perrington, whether it's through financial donations or whether it's through necessities of life. But I would also like to say that our partnerships are strong. It's amazing. I get to call the chief of police or the captain of the A zone, and they give me immediate information so we could support our families, support our students. That doesn't happen without a relationship, and those relationships are strong. Again, as soon as I got up this morning, this has been on, the front of my mind, front of my heart. Kiara Hannon, town supervisor, and his team have been amazing over there at the Perrington Rec Center. I'm trying to coordinate ideas on how we could best support our students. The Red Cross, as President Peter Forsgren just mentioned, have been on site seeing that work up close and personal, and us trying to plug our systems into their systems. It was inspiring. Our staff is amazing, focused. I had to call, first thing in the morning was Michelle Rosavage, who is our director of food services didn't ask a question. Before I knew it, there was enough to feed 75 to 100 individuals. And she did this with her bare bones staff, put it in her car, and before I got there, she had it out there. People don't ask questions, they just want to know how they can contribute. And on and on. We had literacy specialists there, OT, PT, mental health support staff. We've had paraprofessionals show up, transportation members show up, all to support our children. And yes, Joyce, you said it. We're glad that there's no injuries. We're glad that our first responders were there to support accordingly. And our thoughts and hearts continue to go out with these families, and definitely puts our priorities right in order, for sure. Have clarity. This is what we were dealing with 100% of the time today, so it's inspiring to see it happen. We also know that last night we learned that the Supreme Court judge in Long Island ruled that the state's mask mandate is procedurally flawed. The state appealed the decision last night, and an appeals court judge heard the case this afternoon. A temporary stay has been put in place, and I communicated that to families. We don't know exactly how long that stay is going to be in place, but through the end of the week, and it could be longer, we'll definitely communicate with families as we move along. But this specifically means that the Department of Health masking regulations and the directive requiring masks in schools remains in effect. The district is required to comply with the regulation and corresponding directive, and will continue to require all students, staff, and others on school property to wear masks while this litigation is in process. Now, what happened in Long Island is different than our circumstances here in Monroe County. Our rates are much different than Nassau County. They're about 2 weeks ahead of us. So they might be in a different position to make a different decision. And so I don't question or berate that decision. I do know that we have mandates from the governor. We have recommendations and guidance from our local health experts as well, and also the Department of Health. And now this overruling, or stay, I should say, as they continue to look at where we are with the masking requirements. And so that's how we will continue to move forward. And I know this is going to be an item that the board will talk about later on in the agenda, and I look forward to continuing that conversation. I want to show it again. You know, one of our priorities this year was this concept of community restoration. If you come on in my office, in my whiteboard, you'll see that that's what I call one of our big rocks. Ways to unite our community, ways to have conversations where we could talk about things that are on individuals and what's important to them and what's on their mind. We've had community forums. We've had 3 community forums in the fall on the culturally responsive and educational framework, where we invited families in to do just this. We will plan another meeting with that same idea in the near future. Our Diversity Council is planning that evening, and stay tuned as to when that event is going to occur. But last week, there was the 6th annual National Day of Racial Healing just after Martin Luther King Day. We had 3 opportunities for individuals to come together, to have conversation circles about racial healing and the current climate of our society, where individuals came together and talked about what was on their mind, how they experienced life, talked about their stories. On Wednesday, 28 people joined us in a live panel discussion. On Wednesday, we had a panel of community members, actually right here, and we streamed it on YouTube Live, where they shared their perspectives and how they experienced their lives and their stories. It was open and honest. It was all in the spirit of opening, honest dialogue regarding empathy and racial empathy. On Thursday, we had Ronnie Pollock, took 33 participants on a journey through a path and power of forgiveness by sharing the message of the peacemaker to the Haudenosaunee people. Again, these were opportunities where people can come together. They can listen. They could share their thoughts and their feelings. And I was proud to be a part of that. And we're looking forward to doing more of that, as it is one of our priorities this year. I'm going to invite Mr. Loff into this conversation at this point to talk a little bit about our January attendance and staffing and things that we saw and how we're moving along with our substitute hiring. And Mr. Loff, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Provenzano. I know Peter spoke to this a little bit already, but again, here is a graph, the data for January attendance, both student attendance and teacher attendance. We typically run at least 95% student attendance, and our teacher attendance is typically greater than that, in the high 90s. So you can see coming out of the break here, January 3rd through January 21st, that our attendance rates have been a little lower than normal. And as Peter mentioned, you can see the student ones are on the rebound. So by January 18th, we were back in the 90% attendance rate for our students. And we dropped a little bit with our teacher attendance, below 90%, but we are on our way back up there. Although Friday, January 21st, we were still a little bit under 90%. But as we start to watch it this week, which is not reflected here, we can see the numbers going back up. So the good news is, although the attendance rates were a little lower than normal, we have been able to keep school open and keep things going and providing positive experiences for our students.
Doug, in terms of substitute fill rate, have we done?
Yep. So we've been really closely tracking our substitute fill rate, and there's multiple pieces to this, and I can talk to this slide in just a moment. But from our external per diem subs, so the subs that we hire to specifically come in and sub as teachers in our district, we have been running approximately, since the break, 71% to 82% fill rates for our teachers that are out with just our external teacher subs that we have in the system. Peter alluded to an MOA, so a partnership with FEA, with our Teachers Association, where we are piloting a plan where teachers can now cover for each other during their planning times. This has allowed us to supplement and really fill the rest of the way, because obviously we had a gap there based on those numbers I shared with you.
So another way to say it is, for every sub position that we don't fill, we have to fill, and it's best to do it, in our opinions, with a Fairport educator. And they've really come to the forefront. They understand the imperative of supporting each other, their colleagues, and most importantly, our students. So they're going above and beyond and doing their part in making sure that students have a qualified educator in front of them.
And in addition to the teachers, it's important to note that really all of our staff, our paraprofessionals, our clerical folks, everybody has really embraced an all hands on deck philosophy to really make sure we can keep our schools open for our students and our families. If you could go to the hiring update slide. So you can see for per diem teacher substitutes, we did not hire too many subs to start the school year. So we had added only 13 new subs to our existing pool prior to December. Since December, including folks on the agenda tonight that are being approved, we've added 32 new subs to our pool, and I know we're onboarding at least 10 more subs this week, which will bring us well into the 50s, close to 60 new subs in our pool. I think this is a result of a variety of things. And, Peter mentioned kind of the rallying cry in the community, which our community always steps up to. But we raised our substitute teacher rates effective December 1st. We also increased our advertisement, which was significant because we really clarified and promoted what the requirements were to be a sub. And that reached a number of people that didn't realize they actually could sub. Regardless of the rate, they just didn't even know that they could actually sub in the district. Along with starting to reimburse fingerprinting for our substitutes after they've worked a minimum of 5 days for the district. All these things combined have really started to infuse new subs into our system, which is really helping to keep things moving along.
glad to see that in just 3 days, my numbers were well outdated, and that's even higher, so
Yeah.
this is great.
I could also, if I may speak briefly to our ongoing recruitment of bus drivers, I think it's important to note that since we passed the new contract in August, we've had approximately 35 applicants. And as you know, it's a complicated process to become a licensed driver if you don't already have a CDL and that credential. So we've had 11 of those folks already pass their road test, thanks to our amazing trainers, Dave and Maurice, who are 11 for 11, which is unheard of. A lot of
Don't mention that.
knock on wood. It's very challenging to pass that road test, and it doesn't happen on the first try often, but they're doing an amazing job with our trainees. And then we have at least 13 other folks in various stages of training, interviewing, and onboarding. And you can imagine of the 35, some folks started with us or came in for interviews and realized, it really wasn't something that was for them, so they bowed out of the process. But we have 11 new drivers and at least 13 folks in the mix at different stages. So really seeing an outstanding increase there.
And as mentioned, it's a summarized public comment. Not everybody's aware. We are, I'm not sure if it's quite systematically, but we've been looking at just about every position in the district and pay levels, and making adjustments is tough. We take the seriousness of the tax situation that, this district's funded by tax dollars, whether it comes from the state or here locally. But those were the two areas of some of the most serious concern, right? Sub and transportation, and they seem to be having both an impact. Really grateful. Can I say it kind of at least taking the edge off of transportation? Is that
Again, don't answer that because I do have to say to compliment everything that's been said. Yes, that was the one thing. The loss of our staff, not being able to utilize them because of quarantines. That's something that we focused on. Matt Stevens and the transportation team, we did tabletops, looking at different scenarios. If a certain number of subs are absent, what's going to be our game plan, our communication systems. So those are the little things that we've been focusing on, all with the intent purpose. Again, adding subs, changing pay rates, of making sure that we keep our schools open fully so our students and staff can interact and be fully engaged in our programming.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you have
Is there any word on the waiver for the bus drivers on the, trying to think, what was that for?
the
The
hood?
repairs, they don't
Yeah.
need to repair the bus. Has that come through?
So there's been some changes to the licensing of the certifications, but right now we have not gotten anything more as far as the under the hood mandates that may be forthcoming to ease some of the burdens. Because I think what you're speaking to is the fact that we have 36 applicants for our bus drivers, but it takes time and process to onboard them. And we're looking for and have been advocating. I know the school boards have as well. Joyce and Erica, you've been on those legislative committees where they're really trying to advocate for a little less time to onboard bus drivers for certification. We know that it's budget season in the midst of all this, and it's important to get as much information as we possibly can. We are going to be doing a thought exchange January 26th, which is tomorrow, through February 2nd. I am going to be reflecting on that timeline based upon all the different moving parts and communication that I have been doing. So I might shift a little bit, but right now, we're planning to get a thought exchange out there to ask specifically what are the most important things for community members, school members, or staff to consider as we begin to plan for the budget for 2022 to 23. Now, the board will be using this information to help prioritize. It's not the only data point. It's one of the many different data points that the board will consider to get feedback. And we'll be talking about the results of these with our board and in community forums. There'll be a community forum, I believe, Mr. Stevens, we said February 9th. Will be a staff one at Johanna Perrin. I believe it's at 3:45. And we have a community forum so we can review some of the main themes in the budget thought exchange with community members. That's going to be at Brooks Hill I believe at 6:30 on February 9th at Brooks Hill. So we'll be communicating that out very clearly, but please know that that thought exchange is coming. Again, it's just one piece of information, not the whole picture. We're moving right along with our facilities planning. We've been talking about facilities planning at all the workshops. I appreciate the time and dedication that our board has put into this to try to understand all the different moving parts. We do continue to move through the current project, our phasing for this project that was voted on in 2018, Mr. Stevens. 2019, thank you. And we're moving through that process. The new cafeteria, the new science classrooms are well underway, and we'll be hearing more about that in a little bit. But the big question everybody always asks is, hey, what's the status with transitioning students from Minerva DeLand to the high school? And we're looking at our current fourth grade class. They are projected to be the ninth graders in 2026, 2027 to be the first high school students. Okay, so if you have a fourth grader out there, they will be the first students at the new facility here at Fairport High School. We are in the beginning stages of another capital project proposal that we'll be developing with the community. As you can see on the timeline, we are anticipating a community bond vote on December of 2022. That means we'll be talking more about our facilities, future planning, and all the moving parts that are associated with that. And I won't go over every bit of this timeline, but I just want people to be able to see that these have been a very important part of our facility planning conversations and board workshops. I'm going to invite Dr. Thavanason, Wilson Thavanason, to this next conversation. By the way, Tanya, you've been at Parrington Rec Center since 7:30 this morning. I know you came late to this meeting because you were putting the finishing touches on all the transitions. We really appreciate the time, effort, and energy, and your willingness just to want to contribute and add value as a community liaison, and we appreciate that. But we're going to talk about the strategic plan right now and just give a little idea and flavor, not going too deep into it, but we've been spending time this year. It's one of our goals is the strategic plan reboot. We've had stakeholder meetings, which included PTA, community, staff, and Board of Education members interact with and went through a whole focus group session on our strategic plan that we've been using for the past several years. We focused on it at our administrative retreat. Again, asking what's working, what can we do better, ideas to move forward. We know that there was a climate survey in October where stakeholders throughout our community, students, families, and staff were surveyed. The survey focused on our climate, our environment, how perceptions are of our learning environments, and the social emotional learning that occurs in our schools. All of this is feeding our next strategic plan reboot. The Diversity Council has a subgroup that's looking at data and the demographics of students in our schools and who's taking advanced honors and AP courses, what's happening in the world of special education, how are students interacting with clubs, including band, orchestra, and chorus at the elementary level. And you will see as we move along how that is informing the strategic plan reboot. Okay? Our goals and our priorities are being shaped by the process that we've been engaged in. So why we've been focused on keeping kids engaged in school, vaccination, testing clinics, we've been developing our strategic planning process, and that's all happening here. But the goals and priorities of the plan will align with the whole child tenets, the board's mission and vision, the Board of Education's core beliefs, and I know the board's going to be talking about their core beliefs in the near future, and maybe making some edits to the ones that they've had since 2015, I believe. Right? And how are we creating a plan that's aligned with the culture responsive sustaining education framework from New York State Education Department? I'm going to transition to Dr. Wilson Thavanason.
And so thank you. I don't want to read all of these to you, and they are still in draft form, so I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. And we'll be continuing to get feedback throughout
And what you'll see in the strategic plan, like Mr. Provenzano said, sorry, I just promoted you with a doctor, that they are aligned very closely to the whole child, which is what Fairport's been based on. Fairport Central School District has been based on in their education and social emotional wellness. So goal number 1 is really focused on all of that, encompassing not only the students, but also our families and our staff members. Goal number 2 is really focused on our instructional program as a whole, the curriculum, the teaching that happens, all of our programming that supports all of that to make sure our students graduate ready for college and career. And so you'll see priorities under there. This is actually 2 pages of goals for goal 2, 2 pages of priorities for goal 2. Go ahead, Mr.
Well, I just want to emphasize Nicole Allen, one of our educators who spoke earlier, was speaking to this idea of what are evidence-based, research-based strategies,
Absolutely.
that are literacy rich, and I think again that got me kind of excited because that's right there, right?
It always gets me excited when we talk about evidence-based and data-based strategies and improvement plans, because that is equity at its core. When you use data to drive the decisions you're making, you take out any chance of bias or our own personal beliefs. So I am excited about all of this that's especially related to data.
I know you mentioned this. I just wasn't caught up to you yet, but I want to emphasize the importance that this board and the priority that this board continues to put forth, this idea of a guaranteed curriculum. So no matter which school you go to, the what is guaranteed in each of our schools. This idea of teacher-made common assessments to help us have a level of quality control as we build our curriculum and make sure that all students are guaranteed high quality and exemplar experience.
And I'll just point out too, priority 2.6, we can't do it without the teachers and the craft that they bring to the classroom. And we only get better in that craft when we focus on our professional development, specifically focused on evidence-based. So along with that speaker, so. Great, and then goal number 3 is the fun stuff for Matt and our facilities and operations. So this is a lot to do with our fiscal strategies on how we continue to improve Fairport's full environment through our staffing and our facility improvements and our sustainability practices and our recruitment and all of those pieces that make Fairport a wonderful place to work and live. And here's just a timeline right now. So Mr. Provenzano put us through the beginning of the year. So we did a lot of data collection. We've been sharing the drafts, getting feedback. We're going to continue to do that. We are now scarily moving into February, and we're continuing that process of getting feedback and drawing on our expertise with in-house, and then also we will be sharing that with our PTA. Look forward to a thought exchange in March so we can get feedback from you. And we'll be making some edits based on stakeholder input in April, and then hopefully have it ready to go in May to kick off in July.
There'll be an opportunity, of course, for the board to interact with this document, help us with the priorities, help clarify some of the priorities as we move along. I know this isn't the first time that you saw this, but I just definitely want to continue to talk about it. Thank you, Dr. T. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Loff, for letting me, giving me the opportunity to let you share. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's been a long day. I rode on your coattails. Thank you for carrying it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Quite the report that time. But so much going on. I'm personally glad to see a reboot of the strategic plan. We call it a reboot, whatever you want to call it. We did it multiple years ago, and to can keep it up and helps us drive how we know we want to allocate our resources. So I think it's fantastic. Any other questions for Mr. Provenzano? Comments? Okay, we will move on to the Treasurer and Investment Report by Mr. Stevens.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight we have the Treasurer Investment Update for the month of November 2021. In the general fund, we had a beginning cash balance of $104.7 million with receipts of $2.7 million, primarily related to our sales tax receipts, and disbursements of $10.5 million for an ending cash balance of $96.9 million. Of the 96.9, you'll notice 93.9 is invested in a mix of insured cash sweep, money market, CDARS accounts, which is approximately 97% of the general fund cash. You also notice up in the disbursements our obligation as we collect tax dollars for the library. You see a disbursement of $2.6 million related to the library tax warrant for the Fairport Public Library. So that's a piece in November we see typically each year. Overall, as it relates to revenues and expense, very consistent on target, similar to prior year as well. 88.6 million in revenue earned, primarily our tax funds, and expenses of $40.5 million as we progress throughout this school year. Just a quick highlight, I've been talking each month a little bit about the school lunch. You'll notice cash flow in school lunch is approximately 373,000 ending cash balance for November. However, 200,000 of that is general fund money that's been loaned over. As we receive the federal reimbursements, those funds will continue to be returned, but our treasurer continues to monitor the cash flow, and you'll start to see money returned. We already had returned 150,000 earlier on in the school year, and we'll continue to return the money back to general fund as they lend the money. Remember, school lunch is functioning a little differently this year. Typically, we're receiving revenue from student meal sales and federal state reimbursement. This year is solely federal and state reimbursement, so the money is actually on a lag when it comes to that cash coming back to the district. And that is the update for the month of November of 2021.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stevens. That takes us to the consent calendar. These items here are not necessarily up for concession. We will approve them, accept them as a single motion. If there is any item in the consent calendar that you would like to discuss separately, we'll need to amend the agenda. So now is the time to do that. Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve the consent calendar. So move, Mary Kaylin, second, Brian, and all in favor. Any opposed? Seeing, hearing none, 7-0. And that takes us to donations, item 6A on the agenda. We have 5 different approvals to accept donations. I believe all of these from PTAs, is that right this time? All of them are PTA donations, but of significance, right? Significant size for the public who may be looking you're able to access these and see what they are in terms of the Gaga pits, the flags at Dudley and Northside, and then the author, which was a $10,000 donation in and of itself. But all these are really awesome. Again, the generosity that representing the community, not just PTA, but they do fundraising, and then it's suddenly coming here. So a motion to accept these donations. What's your name? Erica? Sorry. A second? I know. It's Joyce. Thank you. I gotta make sure I look left, don't I? Other than thank yous to our incredible PTAs, any other comments or?
What is a Gaga pit?
Oh, you've never played Gaga ball? You got to get out more.
It is the new craze. It is the.
Is it like Wordle?
No, it's physical.
We'll take you over to Northside. They got one. We'll get the kids ready for it.
High energy, lots of excitement,
and fast paced.
And strategic.
I'm gonna look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, look it up. Yeah, you can Google it and you can see some action.
All right. Well, it's great to see that we're gonna have a Gaga pit at Brooks Hill and Northside. That's awesome.
Already even, but yes, no, it is awesome. So, but yeah, look it up. The kids love it. I just surprised how much they love it. I played it myself, and it is a fun game.
I love having authors come to speak to the kids. I
Yes.
think that's an extraordinary experience for them. It's something that parents can't do for them, so it's a great thing when our school does it.
And Dudley repeatedly does this,
Yeah.
don't they? They're
Yeah.
just consistent, and there's others that step in also, even for the school district or the community, right? What is it that they do with Nazareth? Is it the author or school thing?
Oh, the library.
I think
The visiting, no.
Yeah, they have a festival
Yeah.
in the fall. I think that's what you're thinking of. Yeah.
Right, but I
And
know
it's-
it's
The
been
teen.
derailed a little bit because of our COVID situation.
Yeah, I think they did it online, so they had some authors, but it wasn't as probably packed and as exciting as when they have it in person. I think it's the MCC every year, and I should remember. And then there's a teen version, I believe, that they've done at the library downtown in the past, and at Nazareth. So, yep,
Yeah.
you're right.
Well, thank you, the Dudley, again, for promoting that, and every year their dedication to bringing an author for the students.
Our Brooks Hill family just did that last week. They had
Did they?
an author come in, K5, captivating, engaging. Students really enjoyed it, and these authors are very talented. So,
Yeah. Awesome experience. Thank you. Okay, all in favor? 7-0, seeing no dissent. Okay, personnel actions. 1-year positions, a finerman agreement specifically. I think this agreement comes first so that it can be approved as part of the next instructional, right? So we need to approve the finerman agreement as a 1-year position. Need a motion to approve. Erica, second. Joyce. And this is where we see the long list of substitute teachers we've been talking about. Again, express gratitude, but thankful for that. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, 7-0. Athletics. Personnel actions, a motion to approve. Mary Kaylin, second. Brian, as I'm just looking that way. Thank you. Comments, questions? Hearing, seeing none, all in favor? 7-0. The non-instructive civil service personnel action items, motion to approve. Erica's. Joyce, second. Questions or comments here? No, all in favor? 7-0. And then a personnel agreement between the district and an employee. Motion to approve. Erica, second. Brian? Questions or comments? Probably need to enter into executive session if that's the case, but all in favor? 7-0. And last in this section, memorandum of agreement with FEA. And this is relative, I think, what you talked about, getting our teachers where we've didn't quite fill with outside substitutes, be able to do that with internal people. Again, stepping up. It's been a wonderful solution. All in favor, or motion to approve? Erica, second. Joyce. Sorry to get to you, Damon, one of these times, sir. Questions or anything? All in favor? 7-0. Okay, that takes us to our capital improvement project presentation. Brett's already queuing that up.
Kevin Arlett from campus construction, and I think Troy Williams is in the background if we need to pull him out of the bullpen. We can get this queued up. I'll get you the thing. So this right here. Okay, can I continue? Where is it? This is all I got here, so.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go with what we have.
Yep. We get the time lapse. We'll put it on the website.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Good catch.
All righty. Good evening. Here is our capital project update for Phase 1A for the month of December. So here's just a look at the overall project financials. We won't run through each line item here, but this is what the different components that make up the $56 million referendum. A closer look into the financials. So through the month of December, the district has approved just shy of $335,000 in change orders, leaving us $3.1 million left in the contingency. Based on what we've spent, we're approximately 9.7 spent through the contingency. Currently tracking over $216,000 in pending project issues. We have $182,000 in change in our allowances. So looking ahead into January and coming into February here, in the kitchen cafeteria area, our framing contractors working on all of the drywall and finish work, along with the different ceiling systems, different soffit levels, drop ceilings in there. And then our plumber will begin the installation of bathroom fixtures off of the teacher lounge. Up on the second floor, we've just wrapped up demolition for the new set of classrooms we have taken over. Our framing contractor will be tag teaming both the cafeteria and then going up there to start the layout framing for that space. And then out on site, our site contractors working on perimeter drainage piping around the field, and then hoping for some good weather, we might be able to begin the concrete curb work for that.
Good weather?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What is
I was
your,
gonna
Take what
ask.
we can get with it.
what
but
is your temperature tolerance on cement work? I mean, how cold can it be?
We can get down there with heat blankets in this weather. Sometimes it's not worth it just based on the amount of labor added to that to make that happen.
Sure.
So we're hoping for some nice days, but we do have that lined up in the spring. So.
Got it. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Something happened. Yeah. There we go.
Oops. Sorry about that.
I'm not sure it's your fault.
Alrighty, so here's a look down at the kitchen cafeteria. And again, you can start to see some of the soffit work coming into play, along with the walls being framed up there. Got another look at that. And
I
then,
think these are amazing. I have, again, the fortunate opportunity to see things up close and personal. This is really starting to take shape, and I look forward to sharing another opportunity with the board maybe next month to go through and seeing how this is really starting to form. So I'm excited. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing and keeping on schedule. So excuse the interruption.
oh, thank you. Here's a look inside the kitchen serving area. It's tough to see, but up at the top of the screen, they did complete that fireproofing work there, and that extends beyond that as well. And here's a better shot of that, and then you can see some of the duct work that will service the hoods inside the kitchen space.
And that's not dust on those pipes.
No, nope.
What is that? Do you want to speak to that? I mean, it's a nice. What is that above? I don't know. Troy, do you want to jump in? It looks like an insulation or something.
So essentially for this project, we had to infill the 2 courtyards in order to create interior spaces for the cafeteria. That per building code is considered an addition to the existing building. Your existing building, given the square footage that we're adding to it, is taking it beyond what is approved by code. So we had to create a separation of the cafeteria kitchen spaces from the rest of the building. So by code, it's just considered its own building area. The fireproofing that we have applied there is what's used to create that separation.
It just sticks, I guess, right?
Yes. Yep.
You can't have any for home though, Peter. Troy, don't go too far. You might as well just stay close.
We do get that tested by our third-party testing agency for adhesion strength, so we know it's stuck up there. So again, this is in the serving area, looking out into the cafeteria, and this is just a shot at the overhead coiling doors. And here's a look into the faculty lounge. Again, a lot of drywall, starting to finish work in there. Really starting to see the space come together. And then this is just below the mechanical penthouse, and that ductwork goes up to services the excuse me, to serve those air handling units. Then here's a look up at classroom 220, some of the finished casework going on in that space, along with the islands, faucets, and then some of the district furnished items as well.
So in a nutshell, these are ready to go, perfect condition, or is there punch list items occurring even though we're able to get students?
Yep, we have
And
punch
staff.
list items still ongoing here. Some of our material delays, such as the LVT flooring, those will all be going on over February break. Once everyone's out of there, we'll be able to get in there. We're continuing to track all of those items along with Aaron and Bob, and providing updates at our bi-weekly project managers meetings.
But they are being used as classrooms now.
Correct. Yep.
Did you have to move the screens up a little bit?
Yep, we did move the whiteboards
about
and
that?
the monitors up.
So I have to say,
That's good though, right?
no, it's the communication and collaboration is fantastic. Process is highly imperfect. A lot of times there needs to be multiple meetings, coordinating. Again, the coordination and communication has been fabulous.
Yeah, what feels good about that is that there's actually communication, right? And then, you guys are doing your work and you're doing a great job, and then you're getting feedback and you're making some modifications to really make things even better.
Lots of
So
sacrifice.
That's great.
Our teachers, staff have been very accommodating, understanding, communicative if and when necessary, because if things aren't just right, like you just mentioned, the screen was low, again, responded like this won't work for high school students. The team came in. But I just want to emphasize, I got to give a shout out to Aaron Smith, who coordinates all of this, on top of the fact of getting a call from me at, 7 in the morning, to talk about, or 1:30 in the morning, right? Or, on days off because of snow removal, when we need to pick up food items at McCardle's at 12:30 or 11:30, et cetera. So, there's a lot of moving parts, and I just feel compelled to express my appreciation to Aaron and your team. Thank you. Many places, always asking how and what we need to do to support each other. Thank you.
So staying up on the second floor, this is some of the demolition that's happened just down from those classrooms. And again, this is on the west end of the second floor. And just wrapping up the demo there, hopefully framing beginning this week. And then going out on site, here's a look at the water chamber system on the east side of the field. And again, there's two of these, one on the east, one on the west. And then we've got some of the perimeter piping going in. If you take a look at the graphic up top, that line shaded in blue is representing what they've got in there. And essentially it connects that east storm chamber all the way around to that top west chamber to control that drainage and dissipate it off into the retention pond. Correct, yep. And I think these are the time-lapse slides here. Don't think those will play, though, off the PDF viewer. Are there any questions?
I just want to jump and add in, as we've approached Phase 1B portion of the project, we have bid openings scheduled for Monday, correct?
Yep.
And then the team will do the de-scoping process, when with the parent low bidders, as those come in for the next, all of the other buildings in the district, regarding the secure vestibules, the Jefferson Ave site work that's taking place with the bus loop, science technology at Joanna Perrin, boiler work across the district, et cetera. So we're excited to be opening bids up for that portion on Monday. We did just open up some finished work bids yesterday related to the high school itself in Terrazzo, so the team will be also de-scoping that work at the same time. But we did give a little more time on the larger portion due to some the design work that to take place to try to fine-tune some of these pieces. So excited to open those bids up on Monday, and hopefully at the February board meeting look to recommend award of bids for that piece, and then start the process of with all the work with the contractors from there. So thanks to the team here for their hard work on that process as we move through that to the next phase.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you, campus team and Labella.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Have a good night.
Great job, guys.
Okay, board discussion action items, and I do see I on there. Thank you. Damn, real-time changes. But first one, we have a policy second read. Rearranging of the policy committee means we didn't make a first read this time, right? You'll be meeting tomorrow? Thursday. Right. So anyway, policy second read. This is what we saw last month. Motion to approve. David. There we go. Joyce, a second. Comments, questions about the policy? Final. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? No, hearing none. 7-0. reserve fund planning. So we're getting into things that Mary Caitlin mentioned earlier in terms of audit and things we've been doing over the last several months. So here is the update to the reserve fund planning. A motion to approve this plan for 2022. Erica, second. Mary Caitlin. Questions, comments about that? It's available for everyone to peruse there in the public section. All in favor?
Just a quick shout out to Matt and his team for making this easily understandable, especially for newer board members and for the community. Kind of helps us understand what all these terms mean. So thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
The test will be, I think, January. No test.
So various audit reports, most of these looked at just very recently. So we need a motion to approve. There's 3 audits here: the single audit, the food service audit, and the extracurricular. Oh, we have 3 here, but we also show 3 different ones on the agenda. Is that right? Right, the extra classroom activities. Oh, those are clubs. I'm sorry. Never mind. I was confusing the agenda. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me. So the 3 different audits, a motion to accept these audits. Marty, and second, Mary Caitlin. Another shout out here. The boring part was there were essentially no findings, which is actually quite good in the audit. The fun one was, if I can point out, but others are welcome to comment, are the extracurricular activities. I do say fun because this is real experience for the students and those teachers and staff who interact with them. And mistakes that are made, I think, if you don't mind me pointing out to the rest of the board, is the one about gift cards, right? How many of you have given a gift card? And at the time you gave a gift card, did you ask them to sign to accept that? Right. But in these situations, you can imagine it's kind of appropriate. They've bought gift cards. You want to make sure they're not pocketing it. So you need to get a receipt that the receiver actually received it. It went for the intended purpose. That doesn't happen habitually, as you can imagine. But for certain organizations, it needs to happen. And we are indeed one of those. And so that's one of those findings, that these aren't always occurring, although they're able to oftentimes get after the fact. Somebody say, oh yeah, I did get that. But still, it's just one of those funny things you read in terms of extracurricular where students are the treasurers and other things. And it doesn't always happen, but they do a good job, and it's a wonderful learning experience. I think it makes a great part of their education. So I've opined a lot tonight. Anybody else on the audits? All in favor? No opposed, 7-0. The claims auditor reports for October through December. This is really our payment to vendors and for supplies and services that are received. Always detailed. So a motion to accept and approve the claims audit reports. Joyce, second. Erica. Other questions or comments? No, all in favor? Appreciate our claims auditor. External audit services. So there was going out for bid. So a motion to approve Mengel Metzger Bar as essentially the winner of the RFP as our ongoing external auditor. A motion to accept the proposal. Marty, second. Erica, questions or comments? The scoring can be seen in terms of how it lined up, so that's available to people. All in favor? Aye. No opposed, 7-0. So this is exciting on the other side. Sorry, I missed it. All these clubs coming to us for approval. The following extracurricular activities, motion to approve. Got a lot. I don't know who to pick for this. Brian, we'll go you. You said second, so first. Okay, no, Mary Caitlin second. Questions, comments about these?
These are awesome. There are 9 of them. They all look great. They're all at one school though. They're all for JA. So that's fine. My only question is, what do we currently have at JA? Are these all incremental, or are they replacing some, or what about the other schools as well in terms of extracurricular activities? Are we providing imbalance here?
We definitely, there's definitely equality throughout all of our schools. Mr. Stevens, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, I mean, each building, I know Northside has started some additional ones, Brooks Hill as well, so it is balanced across the buildings. In cases where it's a brand-new club, with Jefferson Ave, they may have offered some clubs some years, newer clubs other years, so that's what you'll see in some of these cases. But in terms of distribution across the buildings and funding and all those pieces of availability, that exists, and I know they've got some great participation in the clubs. So these are all brand new names of clubs that they've never had before that have to come through for approval and acceptance, just for the mainly the stipend piece. These don't typically have money flowing through, but they're the opportunities for kids.
Other questions or comments? All in favor? None opposed, 7-0. Athletic school fundraisers, so motion to approve as attached. Kayland, Erica, second. Questions, comments about these fundraisers? Anyone can pull these up. Okay, all in favor? No opposed, 7-0. And the Fairport High School Club fundraisers for this school year, motion to approve. Brian, second. Joyce, questions or comments about that? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, 7-0. And then the item for discussion, don't know that there's any action this time, well, I guess we'll find out, but around masking policy, as that was the big topic of the day. I didn't get any work done because of it. So anyway, would you like to start us out, or thoughts? Or so it was a big topic of the day. We had, I think, in terms of questions, what's going on, and what does it mean also for us as the Board of Education? With the stay, that puts us back under a higher authority, if you will, that they have the right to mandate to the lower authorities, sub-governments, or, we're different levels. And under a situation where that no longer exists, and yet we still have, with the competent medical advisors, credible medical institutions, I like to mention Johns Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic, for example, those who support masking. What does it ultimately do when the mandate such as that goes away? Where do we stand? I assume that's kind of the idea around this discussion, right? Because we do have a policy in place. The court did vacate temporarily, and then the stay came in terms of the governor's mandate, and yet we have a policy of our own.
So I guess I kind of have a question, and hopefully we can get some background information. So Governor Hochul's mandate didn't come out until December, but we've been acting under different guidance since we started the school year in September, because we've had masking since then. So I guess I was a little confused as to if Governor Hochul's mandate is ruled and put on hold and now it's on stay. We've been acting since September before that mandate was even in play. Did the court ruling even affect schools? Because we've been under Department of Health, right?
We've been under the guidance or recommendations or requirements of the DOH of New York State.
So that's a good point, right? That they gave guidance at the beginning of the school year to which all schools were required to follow. And I guess I don't know exactly if that was part of the overall court case. It seemed to be all around the mandate, which you're right, came in November, but we were already under state requirements since the beginning of the school year. That mandate was new. It referred to what all public places anywhere else, businesses and whatnot, right? So no, it's a good question in terms of did it really have an impact to the schools?
I read that the judge said it was that neither the governor nor the Department of Health had the right to make the mandate, and that it has to be voted on legislatively. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. It wasn't just the governor, but also the
Department of Health.
Department of Health.
That's
So
authority.
if we were under the Department of Health, that also was removed. But you're right, we have a policy. But now we're back under the law. We are mandated to wear our masks, so we will.
And I would say, and I wasn't, all fairness, I wasn't on the board when these policies were enacted. I'm certainly supportive of them, but this discussion had a lot of, so if I say something that's incorrect based on the discussion, please forgive me. But in reading the policy, it says in guidance issued by the DOH, Monroe County Department of Health, CDC, State Ed for in-person instruction. And it would seem to me that until we get updated guidance from those bodies, if and when that comes, then we potentially revisit the policy. Absent that guidance from from what it says in the text of the policy, I think that's a guiding principle for us. I would assume. Please correct me if I'm wrong here, but that would seem to be the absent new guidance. We continue to follow the guidance that we've been following.
And we don't have new
When we make a policy, we're charged to write policy, and we approve it. But of course, we cannot make any policy that contradicts the law. So right now, we couldn't change that policy even if we wanted to, because we are being mandated to wear masks. Now, if that goes away, then it's in our hands to determine what to do. But our policies can never supersede the law, of course.
I think there's a hierarchy of laws that we're talking about, right? So if we cannot break the law, we can't create a policy that breaks a law. There can be laws where we don't have a policy, and then in those cases, the law becomes the presiding law that we have to go by, right? But when the law is removed, like it was last night, what was left was the board policy. That still stayed in effect. Then the stay was put back on, so we have this law over on top of the board policy. And I think it becomes very dangerous or unpredictable if we align board policy with political laws like this, because we can go back and forth. And if you can imagine, like some school districts, I think in the state did, they removed the mask policy, and now the law's back on, and they have to reinstate the mask policy. So I think that really bearing this out, letting it flush out in court at a state level is wise to do. But at the same time, we do need to have a conversation as a board in terms of, okay, what are the conditions, what are the guidance, barring a law? Let's say the law goes away. We're not going to wear masks forever. So what are the conditions by which we're going to start relaxing the mask mandate? We did that in the spring, last spring, and we did that based on a certain amount of conditions based on infection rate and guidance.
It was in collaboration with the county and the Department of Health. Since then, the landscape has changed. Obviously, the variant really took off and added another level here.
So I think we just need to define those things, Brett. And I think there's some people in the community that will say, you need to go on record, you need to define what those metrics are going to look like and where the guidance comes from, because by law, you don't have to do this. Like, by law,
I guess the point is we've been very clear and consistent that, we are following the requirements or recommendations from the Department of Health, the CDC, taking the guidance from the Monroe County Department of Health, our pediatricians as well. I know a lot of people get information from many different sources.
Yep.
I've been very clear. I read those statements from other sources, but those aren't the sources that we are adhering to. And I think we've been consistent with that, and that's been the board's expectation. So I communicate what I learn from these entities that we said from the beginning.
I do think that we have to.
And Damon, Joyce and I are on the legislative, committee, and these are questions that we ask and are looking for more guidance on. I can't imagine we're going to stop doing that.
Yep.
I think that everybody wants to have some sort of parameters in terms of when we can stop. Yes, I don't think anybody loves wearing masks. The variant definitely changed things up a bit, because I know we were having conversations before that, but I think that we'll still be trying to get information, like Brett said, and like everybody else said, working with everyone to try to get some more parameters. It's just an ever-changing situation, which makes it very difficult for everyone involved.
It is ever changing. I do want the speed at which things change on a political level sometimes is faster than what a school board can adapt to, right? So just because a judge somewhere in the state rules something unconstitutional doesn't mean that the board policy is going to be able to change automatically.
But the confusing and conflicting part of that was in Nassau County.
Yeah.
That was not in Monroe County. Again, there's different environments, different trends occurring with the variant. I've been told that they're 2 weeks ahead of us. So, that was working for them in their area, which we respect and we're not, having an opinion about. But what's happening here? What is our local experts saying? What is the Department of Health saying as a whole, too? Nothing's changed. And I know, again, we've listened to a lot of different community members who have thoughts, and that's fine. We respect them. We've been hearing from them. We've also been hearing from people who have been saying that, this needs to continue because of their concerns about their vulnerabilities and how it impacts their family and their personal circumstances. So we feel, again, staying true to the values of our professional networks, medical experts that we've been communicating with. I will continue to share that with the board so we can stay consistent with our process.
And I think it, kind of to Damon's point, as a guy who regularly taught a law class for a lot of years, I think it was very confusing that in New York State, the Supreme Court is the trial court level and not the highest court in the state. So I think that can lead to some confusion for some people. Brett, I'm curious, kind of related, do you know our vaccination rate among students and among teachers? Ballpark is fine. You don't have to give me.
I do know that in Fairport, I just found this out. Our K-12 vaccination rate is approximately 83%. Our staff rate is high. I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but we have definitely over 90% of our staff. Those who do not or do not have the vaccination will be a part of weekly testing. So those numbers are low.
And you may not know this, and this may be hypothetical, so forgive me, but I assume that vaccination rates would probably be a metric that would be used if, in guidance developing potential, reduction of masking or something like that.
In our community, we've learned and understand that is a mitigation strategy, and that's a credit to our families. The high volume of vaccines that have been administrated in our Fairport students K-12 is tops in the county.
I know we had offered, when the 12-year-old to 18-year-olds became available, we had offered a clinic in conjunction with Monroe County Health that was very well attended, I think because people really trust our local pediatricians and our schools. Are we going to be able to offer that for the 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds?
They being the county health department has focused all their attention on their resources through pediatricians' offices, through their own personal clinics to manage it because they're younger children and they feel like it's best coming from a medical professional in their sites. So they haven't offered or reached out to us to hold any type of clinic.
Yeah, I asked about it too when I was in the city at a center getting my son's booster, and it's pediatricians, I think, that are getting the majority.
One thing I do want to say is our ability to test. We've had testing clinics and done an amazing job of getting families through the testing clinic on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We saw a high influx as we started the year, but we're seeing that lessen. Like last night, we tested over, I believe, 40 students, and there was only 2 positive. So we're seeing numbers decline. That's good news, and that fits into the variables, Dr. Moritz, that you were asking about of what goes into that decision. That's part of it. The infection rate is slowing down.
And one of many parts of our strategy of keeping students in school, those who've had symptoms now can test and return to school if they're not really sick, meaning they don't have fevers or other things. I don't mean they shouldn't be coming if they still have fevers or what, and it's not COVID. So we don't want them spreading other diseases necessarily. So a good discussion. I do not mind taking appropriate ownership, board president, whatever it is, my responsibilities to say why, even for virtual tonight. It was referenced during our discussion of the mixed community that's out there. And I had asked it one other time, it got lost in perhaps what was a poor analogy. There seems to be situations where you cannot serve all, that there's tough to come to a compromise. And this seems to be one of them. Right, this seems to be one of them, and so we will be damned if we do and damned if we don't. We heard that from a public speaker tonight, right? Very, very upset about continuing. Plenty of emails, responded to lots of emails today. phone calls and other things to talk about this. So that's the reality of it. I will not hesitate at all to default to where I like to be. I like to be without masks. I would like to keep the most vulnerable protected as well, right? That's a priority. I have had a child with leukemia and chemotherapy attending schools and immune compromised. People don't know that about their neighbor and the child they sit next to. And so where do I default? In terms of my experiences in life, that's where I personally default. I was happy tonight to support the recommendation to the board that we do go virtual, and I know it upset people, but not wanting this meeting to become solely about masking with all the different activity and the board business that needs to get done, to be able to give us a calming period, knowing that this is a fluid situation, that it was in the courts, and a 3-day stay may turn into a month stay, it may not. We do not know. There's no doubt some of us are feeling like pawns in the system, right? And a judge makes a ruling and suddenly it's all over, and what are we doing at our level, right? It's a challenging situation. There's no doubt about it. So be it. I accepted that responsibility by becoming an elected official myself, and happy to see it through. If I do a poor job, there will be an election for me in a couple more years. So that's where it will come out. But regardless, that's how I stand on things myself. I'm not asking for others to put that. I'm just putting out there that I was happy to support this recommendation that we be virtual in order to provide a calming period of time while we let things work out through the court system of who has authority to mandate what and dictate what. We are now back under that state mandate. They have that authority according to the stay, and we will see what happens by Friday. And then we will provide updates in terms of that.
Brent, I would ask, were there any known issues today in our schools, in the buildings regarding masks?
I asked my daughter out of, just for high school, she wasn't even aware, right? She couldn't tell by the environment herself that her opinion was no from a high school perspective. I haven't had a chance to see my 9th grade son who's at other activities.
So I speaking to principals all day, it was not a non-issue for a majority of our schools. There were one-offs who students came in and instructed by their parents not to mask. We communicated with them and their families, and it was usually brought to resolve respectfully. We did have a parent take a student home because that was their choice, and we didn't mandate that or require that. That was just the parent's choice. So, but it really hasn't been an issue. A majority of our students, as our student representative continually expresses that our students get it and they're working through it.
Yeah, I think from my observation, and I'm not in the schools every day, but from people I talk to or when I am around school buildings, this is not an issue for the kids for the most part. I'm not saying anybody loves wearing a mask, and we don't want to do this forever, but I think it's just not an issue. It's more of an issue with adults that are polarized politically or something. And it's sad that everything I read in the media is that Republicans are upset or Democrats are upset, and I just can't figure out how masking during a pandemic became this political polarizing statement. Either way, we're just really focused on what's best for our kids and our staff, and I think that proceeding with caution and with requiring guidance from medical professionals is the way to go. And I think it's not a political statement at all. It's just we're trying to be prudent towards the vulnerable population that we have. So that's where I stand.
I also think with everything that happened today, the focus really did not need to be on masking. The focus should be on how we're coming together as a community and helping families that had a tragedy this morning. It should not be about other things.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments regarding that? I do think there are some things for us to discuss in the future as well, because it is a fluid environment and we do still have credible medical organizations and individuals who do recommend it. So that being the case, I guess there's more to come. Other comments by board members? Feeling like we're done with that. Other comments? 10 on the agenda? People said their piece at this point? Okay. Then we do have an executive session, and we'll need a motion to enter into executive session. At this time, there isn't should this be approved, there is not an intention at all or need to come out of executive session and make any decisions. So we will immediately adjourn the meeting after the executive session is over. So the live stream will end. There will not be any more available for those who may be watching. So a motion to enter into executive session. Brian and Damon second. All in favor? No opposed? Very good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.